Okay, we're talking about this thing again. I know. You'd probably see anything else. Literally anything else. But just bear with me, because I learned a little bit about this. So, I talked about it before. This thing kind of sucks without modification. And I don't even know where I got the traction tire. So, yeah. So this thing. The tender, I am unsure what that is modeled after. I'm pretty sure they just kept making the old MPC era tender, because I'm pretty sure this is the exact same mold. As for the engine, it is different. Well, they did make this particular model in the NBC era and kept doing that, and still make this particular Atlantic today for very few starter sets. I figured out what this is based on because of their new one of these. It doesn't look exactly the same as this. They have a legacy version, which is more closely... Actually, the legacy model is exactly based on the A-6 Atlantic, as is this, but this is much older. The wheels are farther apart than the new legacy one, and this generally, I don't think really came in any kind of unique colors. It was basically exclusively just painted black. That's all, which isn't bad. I mean, that means that they can use it for many different railroads, and they did. Pennsylvania, New York, for some weird reason they used it in the Allegheny set and Santa Fe Flyer, and all kinds of different sets came with this thing. Yeah, I wonder if anyone has actually gone out of their way to collect every single starter set that this thing was in. I'm not going to do that, but if I do get more of these, I'm going to leave this one as it is, and then I'm going to customize the other ones, because why not? I mean, this one has the addition of a better traction tire, but other than that, it's basically the same. I have talked about the pros and cons with this particular traction tire, but so we're not going to do that. Yeah, this is definitively based on the A-6 Atlantic, but the Southern Pacific A-6 Atlantic, which it doesn't say Southern Pacific. I don't even know if this was in a Southern Pacific set. I'd have to look into that. Maybe, probably, I don't know. There's a good chance that it wasn't. I'm just not remembering. But yeah. The Southern Pacific had these because they had rebuilt them from older engines, and judging by the fact that they only rebuilt 3, I'm guessing they were a little bit better than they were before, but ultimately they ended up getting replaced eventually anyways. The coolest thing about the A-6 Atlantic is probably there was at least 2 of the 3 that were rebuilt from older Atlantics that actually wore the daylight scheme, where it was daylight colors on the cab and the Southern Pacific number, and then daylight colors on the tender. So yeah. Yeah, this is a weird thing because it is based off the A-6 Atlantic, but Lionel kind of wanted this to be able to masquerade its other engines, because even to this day they're still doing it. Even though it's an Atlantic, they try to have it masquerade as other engines. They still use this particular model, the old A-6 Atlantic. This is the new Legacy one is obviously much better, which that does bring into question if the Legacy fan-driven smoke unit can fit in here. I would guess that it can, but I don't know. I don't know for sure. There's a bit of room in there. If you can see past the, there we go. You know, there's a bit of room in there. It could fit, maybe. Depending on how big it is, it could fit, maybe. If there is a fan-driven smoke unit that can fit in there, that would be great, because it would be better and work better and longer and not fail like the original smoke units in these. Please let me know if there is, because if there is, I'll do a thing and spend the money. Okay, so I've pretty much already went over everything with this. If you upgrade the traction tire to this one that has the grips, I did so by slipping it over the original. It can pull many more cars than it otherwise could. I have found the absolute maximum to be 15 cars, which it cannot pull around my curves. They're just too, even though I have 042, it just won't do it. It tries, it definitely tries. It can do it, but man, it struggles. Even with the new traction tire, I found that the realistic limit would probably be 11 cars, which still isn't bad. I usually only run this with 6 to 7 cars anyways, maybe 9 if I want to run a couple extra, but usually no more than that. Every once in a while I'll put 11 behind it, but it's not very often. I usually just stick with the 7 because it emulates the original 3 cars that the set came with, and then my set came with the bonus advertising car, and then I put these 3 to emulate the expansion pack, as I don't have the expansion pack for freight, but you know, I did that anyways. So yeah, I generally just run it with this, and before I changed the traction tire, it struggled with even 7 cars, but now it doesn't. So, you know, with a reasonable load of 7 to 9 cars, it doesn't slip, and even with 11, it doesn't, but then anything higher than that, and it starts to struggle. And with 15, it can just barely do it on my layout. And, I would assume if I had wider curves, though, it would be able to do it just fine. I'm unsure what the actual limit is. If I had to guess, though, that is the absolute limit, 15 cars, because even my strongest engines, the K4 and the 2037, wherever that may be, these two can only pull a maximum of 21 cars, and these are my 2 strongest engines, so, you know, the Atlantic being able to pull 15 is very impressive indeed.